What is going on, YouTube? This is Zach. I'm here with Andrew, and we are the Just BSN podcast. I know it's been a minute. As you can see, I have a ton of boxes and clothes and more that are hiding away from the camera, so you guys don't see my mess. But I am in the process of moving, so that's been fun for me. But we are here on our bye week for the Browns, and yeah, we got a lot to talk about today. We got a lot of things that we kind of want to say, at this point through the first 4 weeks, as well as we also had a great game against Maryland this week with, our good old Ohio State Buckeyes, and the Cavaliers are getting ready to start up here soon. So we got a lot to talk about today. Andrew, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Just chilling on a bye week, resting up like the players, getting ready for San Francisco next week, dude.
Yeah, it's been man, I feel like after a game like we had last week, having a bye week is needed because fans need a chance to just get away
Yeah.
and regroup. Because if there's one thing about this Browns fandom is unfortunately we are a little bit dramatic, especially when we lose games like
Yeah.
the way we did, and just how everything went down. Like that whole week was just weird. You thought that Deshaun Watson was going to play, did not happen that way, and DTR gets thrown to the wolves, and it's tough. It was a definite tough week. It was a tough game, but I'm glad it's out of the way, and I'm glad it's only week 4. We go into this bye week with a very tough matchup, as we talked about last week. It's going to be something that we really have to regroup and really make sure we get healthy, because St. Fran's a good football team. They're very physical, and they're going to come ready. You already know it. So Browns got to come ready too.
Yeah, no, they do have to come ready. I mean, this bye week is very necessary. And the whole Deshaun thing, I know everyone had their own opinions on it and stuff like that too, because there was so much like, oh, he's got a contusion in his shoulder. I trust me, I had a contusion in my knee when I was playing soccer years
Those are
ago,
no fun. Those hurt.
and they hurt like hell. Like people are like, oh well, it's only an injury that takes like a week and a half, 2 weeks to recover. It's like, yeah, it does, but it's a bruise on your bone, like physically on the bone. There's a bruise,
Mm-hmm.
and when you move or get hit, and that it hurts like hell. And so I don't really blame Deshaun for saying like I don't want to play, because he doesn't want to end up like Baker in 2020 or whatnot, or 2021 or
Yeah.
2020. So where he got jacked up and then tried to play through the injuries, and he played horrendously. And then you don't get your contract that you want and you get shipped out. It's one of those situations where he was practice throwing on the field a few hours before kickoff. Said that once he reached over 10 yards, it started to hurt, and it hurt pretty good. And he said, I don't want to play because I can't throw more. It hurts to throw more than 15 yards. Like, I don't blame you for not wanting to play, but
No.
that's when Kevin Stefanski needs to come up with a secondary game plan with DTR at the helm, and not use Deshaun's playbook and throw him to the wolves and just throw 35 times and get him killed.
Yeah, 36 actually was
Yeah.
the correct one. It was a very weird thing. It honestly, so I was having to move the entire game, so I honestly missed it. I didn't get to see a lot of it, so I'm honestly glad I didn't, because it sounded rough. It just sounded like like he just went out there and was just like, "Hey, good luck." And you don't want to do that to a rookie, like especially a rookie that really doesn't have everything good. Like, he's still very raw. He's very talented, and I do think he will be a nice guy for us for the next few years. But he's still raw, and to throw him out there with Watson's playbook, not even attempt to adjust. I mean, I think we ran the ball 9 times,
Yeah,
and
it was 9 times.
I get, when you go down early, it's fine, but we were not down early very big. Like, we were only down, I think, like 10-0 through that first quarter, or even first half. I think it was pretty close. Um, it kind of bothers me about the lack of RPO use right now, especially with the speed we have in the running back room, and even with Elijah Moore. Like, you have the ability to do it. I don't know why Stefanski hasn't really dabbled into that yet. We need to stop going under center because the facts are here. Chubb is not playing right now. So you need to adjust this offense to cater to guys like Ford and Hunt and get everybody out in space and let them work because they're all very athletic and very good. Let them do what they do best. Get them out in space and let them roam because I'm tell you what, we'll have a lot more big plays that way. And I'm just waiting for Stefanski to finally just open his horizons or say, hey, you know what? I can't be the play caller here. I need to be the CEO. I need to be the guy that's overseeing everything. AVP, go ahead and start play calling or something. Something needs to give with Stefanski because it's every week you have the same conversations. Can he play call? And then he comes back, in that game against Tennessee, where he seemed to call a pretty good game. When the offense moved and we kept our defense off the field quite a bit, which helps. And that's what didn't help us last week. Our defense got worn out because they were on the field for most of the game. So that's going to happen. And when that happens, you're going to give up points. You're going to not have a great game on defense. So it sucked. It really sucked that happened. So I just hope that we come ready, for San Fran because San Fran is going to be ready. They're a very great coached team and they have the players to do it. Now they have a couple guys injured. Obviously, Debo has been kind of injured. I know Ayuk has been injured a little bit, but their defense is. If the Browns' defense is scary, San Fran's is arguably right up there, right next to them. It's scary.
Yeah, no, this is. I think this could be a very heavily defensive game. Um, it, it's just a question: can you stop guys like Christian McCaffrey, who is healthy? Can you stop, even Debo when he's injured and Ayuk when they're injured? They're still producing, and you can't forget about George Kittle either. Like, yeah, he hasn't done much so far this season, but he could break out at any moment.
Yeah,
and you don't want it to be against you. You have to focus so much on so many players, and Jim Schwartz has to come up with some kind of game plan to stop every single aspect. And Brock Purdy's no laughing matter either. Brock Purdy went from being the last pick in the draft to looking like a Pro Bowl quarterback, and I'm sure he will be. And this is a team that's probably the most well balanced team in the NFL right now.
yeah.
I think they are the most balanced team, and obviously the heavy favorites probably to win the Super Bowl this year. And no doubt in my mind that they could go out there and destroy just every single team and win the Super Bowl outright and just not have any problems. And Kevin Stefanski, like you said, Kevin Stefanski's got to figure something out in this offense because what he's doing is not it. And I'm tired of having this conversation.
I mean, me too. Especially when you have this much talent. Like,
Yeah.
Everybody came into the year this year asking, do we have enough guys in the receiving core to make it work? And honestly, I feel like our receivers have been the best part of our offense since we don't have Chubb right now. Amari Cooper's playing great. Every time Donovan P.B. Peoples-Jones gets the ball, he makes plays and he makes good catches. Elijah Moore has made some big plays. Like, we have it in us. We have the players, but you got to make something happen with this team. You have to unlock something that lets Deshaun be a little more like Deshaun, give him a little more freedom to make his plays because the dude is capable of doing that. And we have the speed and the athleticism and the route running to do it. It's been very frustrating. I'm starting to get to the point where I've always wondered, you know what? Was it really Stefanski that has always been the problem on offense? Even dating back to Baker. And obviously Baker didn't play well his last, year or two with us. And that is what it is. He is doing great in Tampa Bay. And I'm honestly, I'm happy for him. And I just knew that was going to be the case for him because, again, sometimes people just need to change places in order to play better. And I think that's just what happened with him. And it's great. It's great to see. But it does make you wonder whether or not Stefanski is sort of a problem in terms of the play calling. As I've always said, I think he's a fine head coach. I think the players like him as a head coach. But I think there's frustrations within the offense that are kind of leaning towards him as the one who's to blame. Watson hasn't looked like himself yet, and we're all kind of like waiting. And I don't know if we will, especially with our O line play. And
Mhm.
we have a lot to talk about with that because our offensive line, who was probably one of the strongest things that we had in 2020, has been abysmal this year. It's been bad, especially in the run game, which is something that we always did well in. But our pass game has been even worse, and it starts with Jed Wills. He has played probably his worst start to his season so far since he's been here. And what was it, 2020? He was drafted.
Yeah.
It's been bad. And fans have a right to be upset with him because he looks like he doesn't even know what he's doing out there sometimes. Um, yeah, I don't know what the solution is besides giving him a new place to do something, and let's regroup and try to see what we can, get. But something's got to give with Jed Wills too, man. He has been frustrating to watch.
Yeah, no, and he hasn't been good since that rookie season either.
Yeah,
Because I know after that rookie season, he did get injured in 2021, and
yeah,
I think that hindered a lot of what he's done. But Bill Callahan is one of the best O line coaches in the NFL, and you don't see something like this from a guy coached like Bill Callahan. And I think Jed Wills, like you said, it has to find someplace new at this point because we can't keep tolerating him just looking so lost on the offensive line. It's not a good look on him. It's not a good look for us. I mean, at this point, I'm more than okay with just throwing James Hudson in there because I'm sure he'll do a lot better than Jed Wills.
yeah.
And
I mean, it's possible. I also haven't enjoyed what I've seen out of James Hudson.
I
I
haven't
would
either.
almost, I would almost rather us put Dewan Jones at left tackle and let him learn and go through those challenges, and just let Hudson be our right tackle, or even switch the two. Let Jed Wills be a right tackle, like a right tackle. He played it in college. See if that does help him. But all I know is, out of all of the tackles that went in that draft, I think Jed Wills is probably the worst one right now.
Yeah.
Anthony Thomas, he started off rough, but he's been great. He's been one of the better ones since. Now I know he's hurt this year, but um, Tristan Wirfs playing great in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Jed Wills has just been he's been the one that's lacking, and it sucks because he's on a contract year. That should give him the motivation to want to play better and want to be better. And it seems like, I don't know if it's pressure that he's falling into. I don't know what it is, but he's struggling
Yeah.
mentally because he has the physical capability, but he just seems so lazy on the field. He seems like he just doesn't want to be there, and it's almost sad to see because you don't want players to feel that way. And I get that the fandom is quite rough. Trust me, we are very rough. We have
Mhm.
thrown many kids out of town because of how just insane we are, because we are so impatient. We just want to be good. And when you have the amount of talent that we have on this team, it's really unfortunate and very hard for us to continue to just take it, especially when it's one or two guys away, and it's it's always been that freaking way. It's always one or two guys away from being a very solid all around football team. Um, so I don't know what they're going to do with Jed Wills. It doesn't sound like they're going to trade him right now. It
Yeah.
could, it could be a trade deadline thing. It could be, hey, let's, let him play through the season and see what happens. But it's hard to have hope right now through the first 4 weeks. He's got to regroup mentally and see if he can really turn it around, because he's going to have a tough challenge next week. That defensive line for San Fran is right there with ours, and even the Eagles and those teams that are just very solid up front. San Fran is they're gonna bring it, especially because they're gonna have Gregory, who they just traded for this week. He's gonna play net against us. That's gonna be his first game against or with them. So they're gonna have him and Boza on either side. It's gonna be scary. Yeah, I don't know what to expect, but I just hope that our offense could stay on the field long enough to sort of sustain drives, so we can keep our defense fresh, because they're gonna need it. We are going to need every bit of it. He's been a champ so far, man. The dude's been lights out. I mean, he's averaging like at least like 140 plus yards a game and a touchdown, and that's absurd to me to think about. But the dude's been lights out and he's been healthy. So you got to be ready to also defend him. And with Brock Purdy, I mean, I know you said he's going to potentially be a Pro Bowler. And although, yes, I will agree he has played better and played well since he's been thrown in last year. I will say it does help having the amount of help he has. Like he has
Yeah.
arguably the best O line besides Philadelphia's. And he's got outstanding receivers and weapons around him everywhere, which helps. And that's why it frustrates me when teams can have a average quarterback, quote unquote, and have so much success like that, and then you have a guy like Watson, and we're just not having the success that we need. But still, regardless, we're 2-2. Like the world is not ending, Browns fans. Okay, the world is not ending. We're 2-2. We've had so many seasons where we have been 1-3 or 0-4 at this time of the year, and we're like, here we go, tank for a first round pick. See what we got. We don't have that because we traded it away. So we are going to compete. We're still going to be fine, and we have a nice stretch of games towards the end of the year that's going to be very key for us. So let's get through these next few games. Let's stay around 6-6 or better, and then you can go on a nice run and hopefully finish the season strong and even a playoff run.
Yeah, no, and we've discussed this too. Like the
Yeah,
best case scenario for this team going into this bye week was either 3-1 or 2-2. That's the best case scenario that could have been. And and like you said, we're fine. Like this is fine. Like I think Deshaun, like I said, he did the right thing by sitting out
he did. He did.
because I'd rather him be resting for 2 weeks, be completely healthy going against San Francisco, rather than going out there, hurting himself even more, missing half a year. And then now we're back to the square one where, oh, we're not going to make the playoffs again. And Deshaun's
Yeah,
not doing this. He's hurt now. And so, like, and all these people who go on social media and stuff like that, like, oh, Deshaun's a baby. He didn't want to play and he didn't want to risk. He didn't want to sacrifice. It's like, no, he just didn't want what happened to Baker happen to him, to where he injures himself, tries to play through injury, doesn't perform, and we run his ass out of town like we do with everybody else. No, that's not going to happen again. He wants to be fully healthy. I respect that. And he wants to win games. And if anything, the two people in the hot seat right now are Jed Wills and Kevin Stefanski, because
mm-hmm.
if it's not, if the play calling doesn't go well for the rest of the season, I can see Barry walking into Stefanski's office like, listen, brother, either you give up play calling to AVP or you're
Or
gone,
you're
bro.
gone. Yeah.
I can't keep doing this no more. Like we can't keep having you call plays and then you don't like to adjust. You don't like to when you're down, you don't adjust. You just keep going with the same game plan and it's not working. And it's like you don't do anything. You threw a rookie quarterback to the Wolves
To the Wolves. Yeah.
throwing 36 times against a defense that's great at pass rushing. Why would you do that? You should have kept it simple dink and dunk, 10-yard dump offs, 15-yard plays. You should not be trying to throw 30 plus yards per throw
Yeah.
and trying to hit Amari Cooper on some deep routes or Donovan Peoples-Jones on a 25-yard, go route or whatnot. Like you do not need to put him in that situation. Deshaun, yes, he's good in those situations. He can do stuff like that.
And
You got a rookie
and you
quarterback.
pay him for that. Like you pay
Yeah.
and that's another thing that I want to note when you talked about how Baker went through his stuff. The difference is Baker was playing for that contract. Well,
Yeah.
Watson already has the money. He already has the thing.
He
He's
has a
thinking
contract.
longevity. He's literally having to think, hey, I have to be healthy for the rest of this year because we need to go on a run. It's a game of runs in this league. It's really a game of runs in every league.
Yeah.
It's just how it works. So it's only week 4. We can afford to lose a game in week 4, although it was divisional and that sucks, but it's not over yet. Browns fans have to pump the brakes and stop getting so frustrated. I get it. I've been a Browns fan for over 20 years. I get it.
Yes.
But we have got to just give the teams time. That being said, we're still allowed to be critical. I've been very critical of Jed Wills and Kevin Stefanski. I've praised our defense. I've we have good things and bad things, but it's only week 4. We have plenty of time to get it right. The Browns just have to keep knocking at the door and coming ready. And this defense is always going to keep us in games as long as we keep them fresh. That's going to be key.
Yeah, and that's absolutely perfect. Like that's the major key to this whole thing. Like we can't keep hammering Watson for wanting to be healthy for a full season. We can't keep going, well, our defense played atrocious. Well, they've been on the field for 90% of the game against
Yeah.
Baltimore. Like, yeah, they're exhausted. Yeah, they did great the first few drives, but then you just get exhausted because you're out there consistently because you keep, throwing picks or you keep, going 3 and out. Like, you can't keep doing that. And then your defense is like, well, we have to stay off the field so we can rest, so we can come back and dominate. But when we're on the field after 2 minutes of the offense doing nothing, like, what do you want us to do more? We're going to get torched. We're going to get burnt out. And
Man,
it was just so simple. Just create a simple playbook for DTR. And I think that's what Kevin Stefanski should do in case of injury to Deshaun Watson. Have a separate playbook for your backup quarterback. When he comes in, you can be like, okay, I can switch to this playbook. It's all simplistic RPO plays. It's simplistic, like, dink and dunk throws that doesn't get our quarterback killed. It gets the ball out fast. And he could probably make some drives down the field. And you could throw in some runs for DTR too, because DTR can run the ball well.
yeah.
So you got to put him in better situations where he's more comfortable. He's not comfortable with the Deshaun playbook where you're throwing 25 yards, you're throwing 30 yards, you're throwing, big play balls. He's not ready for that shit yet.
No.
You don't have, and the offensive line isn't doing enough to protect him to do that kind of stuff. Like, you have to give him a chance to get down the field. You have to give him a chance to make plays. You went out there and you killed him. And I don't like, DTR was not the problem last week. It was not him. He can't sit there. Like, yes, he made some questionable decisions, sure, but every rookie does.
Yeah.
And, again, I don't blame him when your coach is like, all right, cool, you're going to throw 35, 40 times today, and you're going to run the ball 9 times. And, oh, by the way, your offensive line and Jed Wills are going to get you killed too. So good luck out there, bud.
And so here's something. I wanted to pull up the box score for that game because obviously I didn't see it. So I didn't get to see how this game worked. Dude, the numbers on this game are bizarre. Like,
yeah,
without the 3 picks, we would have been in the game. Like, look at this, okay? Although we had 166 total yards of offense, passing yards was 73. Rushing yards, we had more rushing yards. We had 93, rushing yards, but we averaged 2.5 yards per play. Okay. We had 3 less first downs than them. We were 4 of 16 on third down. They were 4 of 12. We were both 1 for 1 on fourth down. We had 10 more plays on offense, but allowed 1 more sack, punted 1 more time than them, and we had less penalty yards. The only difference that screwed us was interceptions. We had 3. They had 0. We had 30 minutes and 10 seconds of time on offense. We still had the ball longer than the Ravens. The difference is we threw picks, and we've lost the turnover battle in every single game that we've played this year. Every single one, besides the Titans game. That was really the only one. And even then, I think we still had at least 1 or 2 turnovers. Like, they have to clean that up. And if you clean that up, it will clean everything else up. We have to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. I cannot believe what I'm staring at right now. I mean, yes, the total yards are much different and all of that, but when you look at this, you don't see a game that would have went 28-3 to Baltimore.
It was a very even line. Besides the yardage, it was a very even game. It was a very even line. Like, you did the exact same thing their offense did. The problem is, like you said, they just didn't turn the ball over 3 times.
Yeah. And I will say, too, when it comes to sacks, I think a thing that people have to, and some do because they're smart, is sometimes quarterbacks will keep the ball too long. I'm sure DTR did that last week because we had 4 sacks. But Watson does the same thing. Watson will hold on to the ball a little bit too long to try to make those hero plays. You've got to fucking stop doing that. It pisses me off
Just get
Do
the
your
ball
dink and
out.
donks. Do your dink and donks. Get him into a rhythm, and then you can open up bigger plays. That's the thing that frustrates me about about Stefanski's play calling is he likes to play call for these medium pass attempts or these routes that take a couple seconds just to even set up and get ready. You have to go quick. You have to get them into a rhythm, and it will open everything else up. I don't understand why Stefanski calls some of the plays that he does. I get that he wants to try to, and he does. And part of his play calling philosophy that is good is he tries to get receivers open through the plays. He designs it specifically for that, but we have to create quicker options for our quarterback,
Yeah.
especially with our offensive line struggling the way it has, and also playing some really good defenses to start the year. We've played some great D lines so far. Um, it's Stefanski just has to adjust, and he's clearly not adjusting. And you almost wonder when Barry is going to be like, "Hey, listen, this needs to be adjusted. This needs to be fixed because we are all seeing this live, and there's nothing being done, and we don't know why. So what's going on?"
Yeah.
And if you can at least have that conversation during this bye week and getting everybody the rest, saying, okay, fresh week, here we go. Just we have so much talent on this team, and that's why I'm not going to freak out through the first 4 weeks. Again, we're still 2-2. It's not like we're 1-3 or 0-4. The world is not burning. The world is not ending. We are fine, but they have at least the capability of adjusting a few things or having players play better. And all of a sudden, this team is a completely night and day different team. So
Yeah.
we have it there. We're almost there. They just have to click.
Yeah, and we do. And like you said, we need to figure out ways to get the ball out faster, especially against San Francisco. Like they're gonna come at you and they're gonna come at you heavy, knowing that your offensive line is weak. And this is what we talked about before we even jumped on here. This is when you guys start using Chief David Njoku. You have to
Mm-hmm.
this is the time to use him because he'll give you a short route through the middle, catch the ball, and he'll get you an extra couple yards because he's a big body. He's hard to get down. He'll get you an extra couple yards. Like it's okay to use those kinds of plays because they give you the ball, they keep your defense off the field, and you drive. Yeah, you slowly drive down the field, but you're driving nonetheless. Again, the more important thing is to keep the defense off the field
Yeah.
for as much as possible. And Jerome Ford is not a bad pass catching back. Kareem Hunt is back. You can utilize him in that same role. Like you have guys who can catch the ball in short yardages and make plays. You just have to use them. You can't keep using no more, Bryant anymore. You can't keep utilizing him. Now, if you want to
Ooh, excuse me.
if it's for like a third and one or something or like a fourth and one, sure you can use Harrison Bryant because he's really good at the QB sneak because he was a high school
Yeah.
quarterback. He's good at stuff like that. But don't use him for a medium pass when we saw against Pittsburgh. The first play was a ball to him, medium pass, and he it was in his hands and he dropped it and it got picked
Yeah.
for a pick six. Like that's a play for David Njoku who has hands and can catch that ball.
Yeah.
Not let's use a guy who's struggled the last 2 seasons catching footballs. Oh, let's just throw him a medium pass. Oh, well, he dropped it. Oh, well, he's dropped it again. He's had more drops than receptions so far this season. You have to change that and be like, okay, this is Chiefs play now, not Harrison Bryant's play, because Chief will make the play and get you yardage.
And I mean, the big thing too with Chief, you're freaking paying him the money to do this. Why the fuck are we not using them? It
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man, it's incredible. Um just I don't understand. Like Chief is such a great kick catcher. He's super athletic. The dude's 6'5". He should be a red zone machine. Also, where is Tillman at? Let Tillman get some reps at wide receiver as well. Like, obviously, he doesn't need to be in there for a lot of times, but like between him and Bell, they're guys that can catch the ball. They catch everything. So like you have the ability to spread the field out and use your RPOs more, which I'm also a little upset that we haven't used much of. especially with a guy like Wallet, Deshaun Watson, who thrives in that type of offense. We need to stop going under center. It needs to be more RPOs. It needs to be more of those inside zone runs. Like we haven't even established that even with Chubb. When we had Chubb, it was always under center, sort of play action type of things. It's been very frustrating. There's things that Stefanski can absolutely do better to help this offense. But yeah, the miss use of Njoku, and I get with him too. He's a great run blocker, which is great. That's great to have. But it's just like even with George Kittle and San Fran, they aren't using him enough in the pass game where he has always been very good because he's a great run blocker. And although again, that's great, but you're not paying him to just run block. You're paying him to make plays on the offense to help that team succeed. And fortunately for them, they haven't really needed it. But for us, when Chief plays well, we play well, and I want to see him get involved in this offense more. I hope Stefanski does that and does seem to notice that. But it's just time to get back down to earth and call plays that are going to work for this team, that are going to work for the strengths of our team, and let it rip. Especially without Chubb, you still have an opportunity to establish the run game with Hunt. I think Hunt will see a lot more uh, plays, especially with Jerome Ford really not like sprouting yet. I mean, obviously he's he's a year two guy, so and he's definitely not Chubb, but at least you have that continuity in trust and Hunt. Might as well let him play more. I mean, especially after a bye week, he's had his rest. He's had more time to relearn the offense and everything. Let him rip. Let him increase his things from 8 to 10 reps to 15 plus and see what he gives you.
Mhm.
But there's still so much good about this team, and I do want to note this. Um, our defense, I mean, dude, our defense needs so much praise because they're the only reason that we are even 2-2. And
Yeah.
honestly, we should have been 3-1 because we should have beaten the Steelers had everything not necessarily happened in that first quarter the way it did. Like even the pick six alone, if we get rid of that pick six, that game is a completely different game. Even with Chubb going down, I think that still helps those guys rally. But you were down early, and you still were able to stay in the game, and yet here we are at 2-2 because we are losing the turnover battle. Um, I would like to see our defense get some more turnovers on our end. We haven't really gotten to really see that a whole lot. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that aggressive play that we've kind of gotten to know a little bit, so far. But it is very frustrating at this point to just again see the talent that we've had and it's not really clicking yet. And you just don't know really who to blame. And I think that is the most frustrating part as a Browns fan.
Yeah, I completely agree. And something has to change going into the San Francisco game because what happened last week cannot happen again. And it cannot happen again for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Otherwise, fans will go berserk and things will be on fire for sure. And I know people will call for Stefanski's head and so much more. And it's gonna be bizarre. And I do want to note this too. I'm actually going to try and get someone here next week to talk 49ers with us, just because I've done podcasts with this person before, and she's very knowledgeable.
Oh yeah.
She knows the Niners like the back of her hand,
I
and
can't wait for that too. That's going to be so fun.
yeah, so she'll definitely be a great guest. So I wanted to bring that up too because we do want to get guests on this show, and
Absolutely.
having a guest this early would be fun and fanatic, and it'd just be fun to just talk back and forth and just get ideas and stuff like that. So be on the lookout for that for next week. We might have a special guest. This might be a podcast to do on a Friday night, obviously, and get someone to jump on. We might have to do a little bit later of the show because she does live in
Of where
San
she's
Francisco.
at. Yeah.
She lives in the
Yeah.
Bay Area, so we
Yep.
would have to do a little bit of a later shows. But I mean, I feel like it'd be so much more worth it because we are it would be fun to have a guest and stuff like that. So be on the lookout for more of those, obviously, throughout the year and throughout these podcasts. We're going to try and get more and more people to come on as time goes on. This is just going to be the earliest we will have a guest, just because I know this person very well and they're more than happy to do this. So
Oh yeah.
I know we kind of wanted to wait a while before we started jumping on and doing
Yeah.
guests because we wanted to get episodes pumped out. But no, I think this would be fun. I think this would be a good experience for us. But I just wanted to bring that up too. We should be having a guest on the next show, so be on the lookout for that. It'd be a fun and
Absolutely.
exciting show. But should we move on to some Buckeye football?
Yes. I would like to talk about something a little more positive right now.
Yeah. I think we need the positivity. Buckeyes beating the Maryland Terrapins 37-17. Started off very rocky. And I think that's been the story all season for the Buckeyes, is that they start off pretty rocky. Kyle McCord takes a minute to get going, and again finishes with over 300 passing yards. They'll completely fine in the third, fourth quarter. But I think the big key when you start seeing Penn State soon enough in the next 2 weeks, and then you start seeing Michigan later on, you start seeing Wisconsin too, like, you have to get up early against these teams. You cannot afford to let Kyle McCord sit there and be like, oh, it's okay, wait till the third quarter to finally get popping and start going and start throwing some good balls and stuff like that. Like, that can't happen. You have to do it immediately from the jump.
Yeah.
Otherwise, those teams will destroy you.
Yeah, you really can't afford to have slow starts. Unfortunately, that seems to be sort of a theme I've seen from over the last few years. They've always been a slow starting team, and luckily with their strength of schedule most years, it helps because they're able to kind of get enough time to get rallied back into a game. Give credit where credit is due. Like, Maryland came out and played excellent in that first quarter, and almost or really that entire first half. We finally was able to get at least tied at halftime. I think it was 17 and a half. And just the fact that we even got there was good enough. But
it was 10 and a half.
Okay, yeah. But it was tied. And, it was pretty much a fight until about midway through that third quarter-ish. We finally started pulling away. McCord finally starting to settle in and get some bigger plays. McCord is not a bad quarterback. I don't think he is a bad quarterback. I think he holds onto the ball a little too long at times, especially with their Ohio State's offensive line is also not as great as it was in the past few years because we had guys like DeJuan Jones and Paris Johnson on either side of tackles, and they were just never going to give up sacks. Like, even against Georgia, I think we only gave up like one or two.
Yeah.
And so you don't have that luxury. So you need to play a little faster, a little bit quicker, and let him get into a rhythm early, and also establish a run game, which we have an abundance of running backs on this team, which is lovely for us. Tripp has been playing well. Obviously, Henderson was out last night, which is fine. But even so, you still have Mayan Williams, who played excellent last year, and he really hasn't gotten a chance to play much because Tripp has honestly been just more productive for us, I guess. And it's just nice to have the luxury of having all of these guys around him, having Marvin Harrison, having Ibuka, having, Jordan Fleming, who, he was a top recruit that was coming out, and he's really not been able to really establish himself because he was always hurt. And now you have Tate behind him, who some people are saying he's ahead of what, Harrison was his freshman year. And if that's really true, that's scary. That Ohio State has this luxury of players. So you have all of the talent. I think I do question Ryan Day at times, but at least he comes through, and at least he gets these wins against these teams. We just got to see it against big teams. We got to see it against Penn State. We got to see it against Michigan. And if you can do that alone, you're going to obviously land yourself in a playoff again. And Georgia doesn't look nearly as good. I think Florida State is a pretty solid team, but other than that, like, once you beat Penn State and the Wolverines, I don't know really who can really compete with us as of yet, because I just haven't seen enough. But I'm excited to see what else they do. Penn State's going to be a tough team, though. I cannot wait for that matchup. That is going to be a fun one. I think we have one more week until that Penn State game comes up.
We do. So
Yeah.
so next week we play at Purdue, and then we play Penn State at home on the 21st, and then you get Wisconsin on the road on the 28th. So you have Penn State, Wisconsin back to back
Okay.
before you go to Rutgers, Michigan State, Minnesota, and then finishing out at Michigan. And this Ohio State team, they reminds me so much of the Browns
Yeah.
a lot, because listening to these team stats for the offense, they are 17th in the pass at 302 yards per game. They're 98th in the rush at 131, but their defense is tied 31st, excuse me, the offense is tied 31st for points for 35. Points against, this is where the defense has been great. They're third in the NCAA in points against with 10.2 points allowed on them.
Wow.
And like you said, against Maryland too, like, we didn't really get going until about the middle of the third quarter, because Tagovailoa did give the lead early in the third quarter, 17-10.
Yeah,
Before
he did. Yeah, he had a few picks, I think, that really like just slowed the game. The
he
game
had
down
two
for them.
picks.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 picks, and then Chip Trainum had a 4-yard run which tied the game, and then at the end of the quarter, fielding with a 24-yard field goal to give us the lead going into the fourth quarter, going up 2017. And then this is when McCord started going off. He had a 44-yard touchdown pass to Cade Stover.
Yep.
And then that put us up at 27-17. That put us up by 10. And then what put it away was just shortly after a 17-yard pass to Marvin Harrison to kind of seal the game, while we kicked a late field goal with about 2 minutes left to make it 37-17. So again, it's just the same story where it looks like McCord doesn't get going until about the third quarter. And like we discussed, we can't let that happen. We had a defensive touchdown. We had a pick six from Josh Proctor that brought us back to 10-7 in the middle of the second. So again, these slow starts kind of start to hinder you a little bit, and you can't afford a slow start. And I think next week is a good opportunity to be able to go to Purdue and try and get McCord off to a faster start.
Yeah.
And see what he can do with a big start. Like, go up immediately, just go down, see if you can't score a touchdown. Get that, because if you can score early, you can get that confidence boosted.
Oh yeah.
And I think McCord's going to play better a lot this season as the season goes on, because I think after that Notre Dame game,
that shot his confidence up, man.
That shot his confidence way up, because you let a game-winning drive in one of the most toughest places to play in the country.
Yeah.
Who says you can't do that against a Penn State at home? Who says you can't do that at Michigan?
Yeah.
And Michigan hasn't looked the best either, because they have played absolutely nobody so far this season.
Yeah. Their strength of schedule is very, very low. Like they're I forget what exactly it was, but they have like, I think the worst schedule, like strength of schedule out of all of the top teams. I believe.
So their schedule is as follows. They started out at versus East Carolina. They played UNLV. The first 4 games were at home too. They played Bowling Green, and then you played Rutgers. They just beat Nebraska and Minnesota on the road. Their next game is Indiana. Then they play Michigan State. Then Purdue. Then they play at Penn State on November 11th. Maryland at Maryland on the 18th of November, and then lastly they play us. So again, their schedule is not good. They have yet to play anybody ranked. They won't until they play Penn State, literally this time next month.
Yeah, that is. I mean, it definitely hurts them, but it also helps us, because I mean, I think if Ohio State isn't coming into this game, just into this season in general, hungry as hell after literally nearly beating Georgia last year, because they were the only team in that playoff that could have beaten Georgia.
Yeah,
and that's flat out true. Like, it doesn't matter. The only thing is, I think our defense this year is way better than it was last year, and that's good. Like, that's our defense for Ohio State the last few years has really struggled. Like, it really hasn't been uh, good since we've lost some of these DBs. Like we really haven't had any top DBs, and we really didn't have a solid pass rush until last year. Um, and now we have Jack Sawyer on the other end of that as well.
Mhm.
We have a solid defense, so like that also does help. And you have all of these guys on offense. There's zero reason why we can't put up 30 plus points a game easily, especially if you establish the run game very successfully, like you really have. Um, McCord has the ability to do it. I trust in him. I don't think he is the worst thing ever. But it will be intriguing next year when some of our top recruits come back in, and there really becomes a true, sort of competition where if a true freshman will come in and outplay him, he's going to go to the transfer portal. And that could
Yeah.
be a realistic thing that could happen. Or even the other kid that we have on the team right now. I totally forget his name. I'm literally botching it. Devin Brown. I
Yeah.
can see him going in, into the transfer portal, after this year as well. It's definitely possible. And it's a luxury that we've kind of also had, I would really wish we would have had Ewers. Oh my gosh, could you imagine if this team right now would have had Quinn Ewers playing instead of McCord? No, and again, no shade to McCord, but Ewers is clearly a better quarterback.
Yeah.
And he came in early. Like he came, I think he came in after his like junior year of high school because he had already had enough credits. So he was like
Yeah.
17 or 18 coming in, and he was just redshirted and didn't play. And he was also behind, Stroud, and it sucked that happened. But at the same time, man, it would have been great to have him because they're playing well right now. They are.
Yeah, no, imagine. Yeah, I'm just imagining Quinn Ewers on this team and just how dominant he would be with Marvin Harrison and Amika Ibuka and all these other great receivers that we have in this. The running backs too with Henderson and
We've been
Trainum
spoiled.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, we've been spoiled. I mean, we had Fields, and Fields. I mean, Fields was probably one of the better, prospects that we got. And then
yeah,
honestly, I think Stroud is going to go down as the most successful NFL quarterback that has ever come
yeah,
out of Ohio State, because we've never really had a guy that's like come out of Ohio State and played super super well in the pros. CJ Stroud has looked incredible for Houston. I'm really happy for the kid. It really sucks that he couldn't win, a game in and I do want to note this too. This is something that could be a topic of interest. When we had Meyer as our head coach, how important that last game against that team up north was, um, versus how Ryan Day seems to treat it. It's almost night and day. Like Urban really genuinely only gave a crap about that game, where
yeah,
Ryan Day doesn't seem to hype it up as much, and it, it could just be because Meyer was from Ohio and he gets it.
yeah,
But it's like one of those things where like if Ryan Day can't beat him again, he's definitely going to get canned because there's no way you can lose to Michigan 3 years straight and expect to keep your job, because it's been sort of a tradition to beat them up. Um, I'm curious, but I am curious. Uh, if Ryan Day were to get canned, just in that theory, which I hope does not happen. I don't want that to happen. But if he does, Brian Hartline for head coach, or do you go somewhere else?
I wouldn't mind Brian Hartline being the head coach. I think he'd be fantastic.
I love him. Like
I do
I
too.
think he should genuinely take over fully on offense as the OC, because I think Ryan Day still has that same like sort of Stefanski play calling aspect where he
Yeah,
is the head coach, but he's also the play caller.
he is.
I want to see Brian Hartline, because first of all of these recruits come here for Brian Hartline. That's why we have so many great uh
Receiving
wide
recruits.
receiver recruits, and we're about to have like two more for the next 2 or 3 years anyway. Like it's going to keep coming in. Like why not let him be a head coach? Because if not, he's going to go somewhere. Like
Yeah,
Brian Hartline will get a chance to be a head coach somewhere with his recruiting, and when that
yeah,
happens, you will lose your recruiting, and I don't want that. Um, so again, I don't want Brian Hartline, or I don't want Ryan Day, to get fired. I don't want to lose to that team up north. But if it does happen again, it's a clear conversation. No matter how good his overall winning record is over the last few years. You can't beat them. You really can't coach at Ohio State because that's the only game that matters.
Yeah, no, it's the game that we only care about too, really.
Yeah,
Besides, I mean, I kind of care about Penn State too
yeah.
because I like to beat the crap out of Penn State too.
And they've always been a tough team for us too. Like
Yeah,
it's same with Wisconsin, Illinois,
yeah,
Purdue, Indiana. Those division games always are very tough for us.
yeah. No, I think if Ryan Day took Penn State and Michigan more seriously, I think and winning those games, I think I mean he has beaten Penn State every year he's been here. So I
Yeah,
mean it's not much of it's just you can't lose to Michigan 3 years in a row after beating them for nearly 2 decades
yeah,
without them winning, or excuse me, a decade without them beating you.
yeah,
Like now you're on a trend of they're beating you every year now when you're the one beating them every year. Like we can't let this happen. And I think Ryan Day needs to make a big emphasis, like especially like a couple weeks right after like Penn State and Wisconsin. Your main focus is beating the shit out of Michigan. Like
yeah.
that should be your main focus. Like at that point, like if you don't beat them, like you said, I think he gets canned. And if I this would be the time for Brian Hartline to be like, oh, yeah, I'll take the coach, I'll take the job. Like I would be more than happy for Brian Hartline to be the head coach. And I've even heard some people say bring back Urban Meyer as the head coach because
Um,
at least he's willing to beat Michigan. But I mean, I said no to that like 1,000 times. I'm
no,
like no, I was like no, don't do that.
and there is also legitimate rumors that Urban could go to Michigan State and
Yeah,
coach.
I heard
That
that
is
too.
that is a legit rumor. I have guys within the Dogland that have a lot of connects through there, and that is a legit rumor. They have the backing of donors and stuff to do that. So it's up to really what they want to do at head coach. But like Urban Meyer could go coach there, and if he does, that brings Michigan State back up to
Into the
relevancy
yeah,
because they've been. I mean,
they haven't
they've been
been
okay, but they haven't been great for
yeah.
over 5 years now at least.
Yeah,
So
right now
that's
they're like
another
2 and 3.
conversation too. Yeah,
They're 2 and 3 right now, so they're not a good football program like they used to be.
no.
Like when we were in college and high school, like they were like a dominant
Oh my
football
gosh,
because
yeah.
it was Michigan State, it was Penn State, it was
Wis-
Michigan,
Wisconsin
Wisconsin. Like
every year. Yep.
all these teams were. It was. I think the Big Ten at that time was probably the most difficult conference in college football because
No.
you had half that conference just really, really good and just beating the hell out of each other. But
It's
it's
only going to get harder too with
yeah,
with teams like I think USC is going to come to the Big Ten. Same with UCLA. I think Oregon might
Oregon's
be
joining
too.
too.
Like the Big Ten is going to become the new SEC, and I think it will overtake the SEC eventually because the SEC really has been going down. Bama is 12th right now. They don't look great. Georgia is finally coming back down to earth because their top recruits are finally gone, and they really
Yeah,
don't have good quarterback play. Um, and I'm not saying that the SEC is not a tough conference. It always will be, but now that you mix in those good Pac-12 teams in with good Big Ten teams, those are going to create some fun regular season games. Like there's going
yeah.
to be some fun college football games in the next few years because I think we start playing USC next year or in 25. It's one or the
It,
other.
I think next year I saw the schedule or whatever. I know we play Oregon next year for sure. I knew that. I think we play Oregon and UCLA next year, and then we play USC the year after.
Yeah. And we
With
already played Oregon last year too, so like that's not going to be something that's like super crazy because we always would play a team like them or like when we played Texas a few times. I think we did play USC a few times when they had that freaking Barkley kid at quarterback, Shane Barkley. I think was his name.
oh
Um,
Matt Barkley
Matt Barkley. Yeah,
yeah
yeah. I know we played them a couple times. So yeah, like we have played those teams, and now we just get a chance to do it
every
fucking
year.
every year, and it's gonna be fun. Like I can't wait to see what it does to the Big Ten because I think the Big Ten has gotten weaker before that, when they brought in guys like Maryland and Rutgers and all that, those teams really haven't caught on, and they really haven't adjusted. Now Maryland has played better, and that's because they have Tua, and that's great to see. But um, a lot of these Big Ten teams are getting worse, and it's really always just been Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, and really not in any order. It's always just been them, and then every once in a while you get a Northwestern, that comes out and plays well and has a good defense, but not really a great quarterback. You got Wisconsin or even Nebraska that has kind of the same thing, and then we go to the Big Ten team or the Big Ten championship game, and then we beat the snot out of them. So it's like
Yeah.
I just want to see more competition within the Big Ten, so I think it's going to be great for us. I can't wait to see those matchups. But for now, this year, we're here, and if we can beat Penn State sort of convincingly, or at least in a decent fashion, that will up my confidence for the big game at the end. Uh, but Penn State's going to be a matchup. That's one I'm definitely scared of right now.
Yeah, you and me both. And while we have a couple minutes left, let's delve into some Cleveland Cavaliers as preseason begins on Tuesday. So basketball is officially back on Tuesday with preseason. The Cavs will
Against the
take on
Hawks, I think,
Atlanta.
right? Yeah, the Hawks.
Yeah, so the Cavs will take there's 4 preseason games, the 10th, the 12th, the 16th, and the 20th. Those will be again like basketball's back now. We play our first game of the season October 25th against the Brooklyn Nets in Brooklyn.
Ooh.
Before we come home and play OKC, we have a 3-game homestand against OKC, Indiana, and New York.
Okay.
So basketball is officially back on Tuesday.
It
we
is.
have Cavs again.
And I'm really excited. And I kind of feel bad for Donovan, Mitchell, although he's kind of brought it upon himself because he's always created some sort of intent,
Yeah.
just all of the shit to him in New York and stuff. But he's still here, okay, and he's gonna play hard for us. I don't think anything less of that. And I like the guys that we have brought in it with Nang and Struss alone are 2 great guys that we have brought back in. I think bringing back TT helps the locker room. He's
Yeah.
going to be like that new Love that we had last year. I think that they realize like, hey, we do need a solid vet that knows how this team works, and it just helps the young guys. And now some of the young guys are not really young anymore. Darius Garland's in his 4th or 5th season now.
Yeah.
I think Allen has a chance to really evolve, and even Evan Mobley now, year 3, he's put on like 10 pounds, I think. He's going into the season, I think, around 220-ish, which is big for him. And apparently he grew, so he's also like 7 foot now. So there's definitely a lot to be excited for Cavs by basketball. It's just about, can they sustain some of the things that they did well into this year and head it into the playoffs? Because obviously that New York is a good team too. Like don't get don't get me wrong. They were much better on defense than I had thought they were, and I definitely underestimated them a little bit. But they came out to play. They knew matchups that they liked, and they killed us. And so I hope the Cavs learned a lot from that series and learned that, getting that playoff experience was key, because now you can take it into this year and go, okay, this is what's expected. Like, this is what happens. Like, now teams have days at a time to prepare for you after one game. And I don't think people understand how difficult it is in the NBA to win 4 games in a row, or even just 4 games in a 7-game series against basketball teams, because you have so much time to adjust and make changes, both on offense and in defense. So it's tough, but I'm really excited to see the guys that they brought in, and I'm really excited to see just certain guys take the next step. I think Darius Garland has a great chance to be an all-star this year if he can stay healthy and he can play fearless. That kid's got the dog in him. Like, I love watching Darius play.
No, watching Darius is so like probably one of the best guards we've had point guards we've had in a very long time. I mean, so good. Him and Mitchell work so well together, and I think they have a great partnership. And like you said, now you get that playoff experience. These guys are gonna be much better now. Jared Allen's probably gonna be a lot better, and he's gonna be a lot more physical of a body than what happened against New York in the playoffs. And I think that's why you brought back Tristan Thompson too. You brought him back on I think it was a 1-year deal or 2-year deal.
Yeah,
It was something. It was a very small deal, and you
yeah.
brought him back. I think it's because of that physicality that you're missing in the postseason. Because you got rid of Kevin Love, which I thought was a mistake. I
Me
think
too. Me too.
I think you needed him, and especially in the playoffs, you needed that rebounding from Kevin Love and the experience from Kevin,
Yeah.
because he was at that point he would have been the only player on the roster. Him and Mitchell as the only two players on the team that actually
Yeah.
made the postseason. But it
Yeah.
was Garland and or no, the two players that I think it was only two players that made the postseason before, and that was Donovan Mitchell, obviously with Denver, or excuse me, Utah. It was Mitchell
And
with
Rubio.
Utah, Rubio, and also Chetty Osman.
Yeah, Jetty. Yeah, that's right.
Because remember, Jetty was a part of the
His rookie
championship
year,
team.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, his rookie
20,
year.
20, 20. Well, Andy was with us in 2018.
Yeah,
So LeBron's last year.
He was there. He was in the playoffs for the first few years of his career, so
Yeah.
he has playoff experience. But those were the only three guys on the roster with any playoff experience.
Yeah.
And now everyone does. And I don't know if you've seen the schedule, but we play New York Knicks back to back at the beginning of the season.
Ooh.
We play them at home and away. We play them at home on the 31st, and then we go to them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And we play them the next day in New York. So they play here, and then we travel that night to New York and play them the next day.
Yeah.
So you play them back to back to start the year. So that's a true test.
Yeah, and we really don't have a crazy hard schedule. Start to the schedule. Obviously we have the Hawks, then we got the Magic, Pacers, Nets, and then you have OKC, Pacers again, Knicks back to back, and then you got Pacers again, and then the Warriors twice in in like a span of a week, and then you got Thunder, Kings, Trailblazers. Who I'm curious to see what Portland looks like post Dame Lillard.
I think everyone's looking forward. To the November 25th matchup against LA and Cleveland.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody. I mean, listen. Everybody wants LeBron back. We all know it.
I kind of do too.
I wish for it every day of my life. Now, I don't think we play Milwaukee until like damn near after Christmas. I think. Let me see. Magic, Lakers, Raptors. Yeah, we don't play them until the 29th. So that'll be a very interesting game as well, because that'll be Dame Lillard. That'll be Giannis.
Yeah,
that's gonna be that'll
be a fun
team.
one.
Yeah, it'll be a very fun team to watch. And then we play them again on the 17th, and then again on the 26th of we play them all four. So all four games that we play against Milwaukee will be from the 29th of December to the 26th of January. We've played all four games within that month span.
That's crazy.
That's interesting. That'll be a good time to see like where the Cavs are. But the good thing about the NBA season is it's long. It's long. You got plenty of time to make changes and go through it. So we'll see what happens. But this team, the guys that they brought in, I think are going to be great additions. I think they're going to help us on defense a lot more, and they're also going to help us in the offensive game. Because
I'm looking at Amani Bates too. I'm looking to see like what he can do and stuff like that too, because I think he's going to be a big part of this Cavs team more than people think to start the year.
Yeah, it's he's another KPJ type of prospect, but just not nearly as troublesome as that kid is. But I'm just really excited to see us finally seem to have a small forward / power forward that can really stretch the ball out and make plays on offense.
Which is what you're missing off the bench. For sure.
And I was at game 2 of that that playoff series against the Knicks. And when I say every time Jetty shot the ball, I knew it was going to miss. It was always a mess. It was so frustrating to watch. I love Jetty as a person. but the dude has like a spot up shooter that just wasn't his
Cup of tea.
place, and it just didn't fit the Cavs anymore, and that's why
Yeah.
he's with the Spurs. And I think he'll honestly play better with the Spurs. Um,
Yeah.
but I think bringing in Nang and Struss, where they have the ability to do that, standing in the corner and having
Yeah.
those threes, that's going to help us, especially with Garland and Mitchell. So it's going to be fun. I cannot wait for the season to start. It's going to give us a nice change of pace with the Browns and how obviously frustrating they can be throughout the season. It'll be nice to at least hold on to the Cavs a little bit.
Yeah, and like looking at this team now, I mean, this team is looking pretty solid too. Because, like you said, we got Niang. We ended up getting Max Struz. We also got Zaire Smith, who's not bad. Um, they're just players on this team that are good. I mean, Sam Merrill. Wasn't Sam Merrill the one who balled out in for the Cleveland? What's it called?
Uh,
The
oh,
Cleveland
it was
Charge.
yeah.
The one
Can't
who's
charge.
like,
Can't
yeah.
charge.
Well, they moved to Cleveland now. They're not
Did
the
they?
Cleveland Charge. Yeah, they're the Cleveland Charge now.
Damn,
They moved
that's
because
sad.
yeah, because they moved to the Cleveland State basketball arena.
Okay, I mean that's smart, I guess. I mean,
Keep
obviously
it
you don't,
close.
and plus you don't really want it to be in Canton. Like Canton's kind of the worst part. Like you literally could have put it anywhere else. You could have put it in
Yeah.
Stowe for all I care. But like, um, Sam Merrill was somebody that we always wanted to get up and just didn't happen. So
He had
I will be
crazy
curious
3-point games.
yeah. So I will be very curious to see who balls out in
Yeah.
the preseason. That's going to be fun to watch because you're not. I mean, I don't think Donovan Mitchell will play any more than one game in the preseason. I don't think you see Mobley more than once or Gary or even Garland more than once. So
I might go to one of the preseason games just to
that's
like kind
smart.
of see like what the rookies can do,
Yeah,
what some of these guys who came up from the charge can do, like Sam Merrill and stuff like that. Like I'm sure you'll see a lot of Max Strus and a lot of Niang because obviously they're new to the team and you want them to get
right.
fitted for the team. So I'm sure you're going to see them quite a bit. But
But I still wouldn't bank
I
on
think you
them
see them
playing
for
more
two
than like
games.
20 minutes. Yeah, like
But
20
yeah,
minutes a
not
game minimum.
yeah. But just to get them fitted to the new system of a new team and stuff
Yeah.
like that too. But I'm excited to see this Cavs team. I think this is going to be a very fun season. Like you said, it's a long season. It runs from mid-October to almost mid-April, so it's a long season. So we have a lot to see and a lot to witness. Like I said, I might check out one of the preseason games when they're here. I mean, I saw tickets for like $2, so I
Yeah.
might just snatch like a $2 ticket and just go up to the game and just kind of chill out, watch, and see what this team can do.
Absolutely, man. That's a good idea. Yeah, I should definitely look into doing that too.
Hey,
Um,
let me know. Me and you could hop aboard. We could go.
yeah, absolutely. But we're pretty much running out of time. Obviously, next week is going to be a big game. We will obviously have a guest who is a lovely San Fran fan, and I've met her once. I guess we did a podcast last year with one of your other projects, and
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
great. So I'm really excited to be able to have both sides of it and just kind of get another fan's perspective of us, especially with this defense. I'm really curious to see what
Me
she says.
too.
So
Oh,
it'll be a lot of
also,
fun.
also too, I forgot to mention I will also be going to the game next week against the
Oh,
Niners. So
yes.
I will be in attendance at the stadium. So
Live in the flesh.
I'll be live in the flesh. So I will be there. So, but no, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Be sure you guys check out our socials. I put them down below in the description. So be sure you guys check our socials. Follow us. I put our individual and I put the Just BSnpod socials down there. So follow every single one you see down there. Obviously, we're gonna have a special guest coming up at the night sometime this week, probably Friday when we normally record. So
Yeah.
we'll definitely have a guest then. But other than that, great
A
show today.
lot more to come now
Oh
that I am
yeah,
out. I'm obviously still moving, so I still have some stuff left to do. But once I am settled in, first of all, this room is going to look different, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. We still got a lot more planned, so I'm really excited.
yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
guys. Well, it was a pleasure talking with you again today, Andrew. We are the Just BSN podcast. We will see you guys next week, hopefully to talk some Browns versus San Fran.